everybody. Welcome. It's Shadow at Night, Monday, September the 8th, 2025. And on the show tonight, Mark Carney is backpedaling now on meeting the climate goals for the 2030 Paris Accord. So is the rest of the Liberal cabinet, right? They're going, wow. Also, on Friday, he announced that he's going to be giving the canola sector here in Canada, primarily Western farmers. Is it I think it's $270 million of our dollars just to keep them propped up. But they say, the farmers, that whole sector, they say, dude, you're kind of missing the boat. We don't want your money. So for one of the first times, and we've heard this before, it primarily comes from the Western provinces, and even still, if you want to narrow it down more, Saskatchewan and Alberta, we don't want your money, man. We just want to be able to do our work and get paid for what we do. So find us some new markets outside of China. The reason this is happening in the first place is because China had a little bit of a hissy fit when Canada put tariffs on their EVs last fall, right? And so they're deciding, well, we're going to put 100% tariffs on your canola products. And I think they're one of the only buyers we have for our canola in the world. Maybe the States takes a little bit, but they produce their own. So China essentially has said, if you don't allow our products into your country, and they've got enough here as it is, don't you think? Without tariffs, then we're not allowing your products into our country. And yet still people are worried about Donald Trump and the danger that he poses to our economy and our jobs. It's hilarious. Nobody ever zeroes in or focuses on China because guess what? The government doesn't say anything about it. And the left-wing corporate media says even less. Anyway, we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. We have some news about Universal Ostrich Farm. It's good news. Couple of things about that. And people have been asking me to talk about September 15th. I received over the weekend, I'm going to say 50 messages and emails and even texts from people wanting to know what's going on September 15th. And I said, that's a good question. What is going on September 15th? I've seen some posters flying around social media regarding a rally for freedom of some kind, but there's no specifics given. There is no name on any of these posters as to who's organizing this. And the more research I did, the more vague it became. I think I narrowed in on one guy who had been pushing the idea of Convoy Mark II or even Mark III at this stage of the game. And he wanted trucks in Ottawa and all of that. Time to go back and protest the evil government or the Marks, whatever. But my take on this is that it's very sloppily put together, if in fact it's being put together at all still. I don't know. And if you want people to rally, you got to give them something to rally about, something specific. For example, when you go back to the Freedom Convoy, it was all about the COVID mandates, wasn't it? We all went there, or many people went there. I was at the Winnipeg one because of all of these ridiculous mandates that were in place. You got to stand 6 feet apart. You got to wear masks. You got to take the shot. You got to have the vaccine passport, all of that stupid stuff, right? Which, by the way, the Freedom Convoy, I believe, was successful in removing in a couple of provinces like Saskatchewan and Alberta, and then the rest of the provinces followed suit. But that was a very specific protest. In this case, I really don't know what they want people to protest. And if people don't know what they're going to give up their Saturday for to protest, they're not going to go. And if they don't know who's organizing it and what's involved, what do I have to do? Right? That's a pretty standard question. It's like asking somebody to sign a petition, but you don't know what it's for. Like, here's the petition. Come on, man. That's it. Yeah, come on, man. I don't think I can sign that. I don't know what it's about. So that's my take on all of this. I didn't do a lot of extensive research. I'm going to be completely upfront with you guys about that. I did look around for about an hour, could not really find much of anything. And so usually in circumstances like that, I won't even bother bringing it up. But because so many people messaged me over the weekend saying, what is this? I went and did whatever research I could do on this, which, to be honest, I mean, there's not really much to do on this. Couldn't find anything. And so, look, if you want to go to Ottawa, if you're in the area this coming Saturday, you go down to the Parliament buildings and you protest, I suppose. I'm not sure who's going to be there. Likewise, if you can't make it to Ottawa, but you want to go to a protest in your neighborhood and you happen to live near a provincial capital, Edmonton, Regina, Winnipeg, Victoria, Toronto, go to the ledge there and protest, I suppose. I can't really tell you what to expect. Personally, I think, and this is something we touched on in the extension on Friday night, because the climate zealots are focusing in on coffee now. They don't want you to drink coffee because that's bad. That's bad for the environment, drinking coffee. I think it's going to be something stupid like that causes the uprising. You try and tell somebody that they can't have their cup of coffee in the morning, or 2 cups or 8 cups through the day, whatever it is. You tell somebody that, see how they react. So that's what I think is going to cause finally the uprising. And again, I want to point out that we do win this ultimately, but we're going to have to go through a lot of pain and hardship before we get there. Just so you guys know this, I don't want you leaving here at any time thinking, oh my God, it's over. We're done. Pack up everything, move to the hills. It might be an idea. Not saying it's not, but don't ever leave here thinking that there is no hope, because there's always hope. Always. Shadow at Night live stream is, as always, brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
Today we're comparing Crest toothpaste to SilverSeuticals toothpaste. First, we're starting out with Crest. It's a classic, it's an original. It's what I've used most of my life. But that being said, it does have its problems. First off, the consistency is so weird and thick, and I get it's a paste, but it really doesn't spread that well. And I must also say that I'm not in love with the taste. I get toothpaste isn't supposed to taste good, but why shouldn't it? But that being said, it does get the job done. Next, we have SilverSeuticals. They have 3 flavors, but today we're going with Bubbleberry. And already it smells so good. So I'm excited to see what this tastes like. The consistency is also a lot smoother, and I must say it spreads way nicer in your mouth.
This literally tastes like fruit bubblegum.
Yeah, this toothpaste was pretty good. I actually went in for seconds, and it's infused with nano silver, so it helps remineralize your teeth and keep them fresh throughout the day.
100% go with SilverSeuticals.
And here's the results. What's your favorite toothpaste?
Canada Nano Silver, 204-808-9292. That's 204-808-9292. Call Kevin and Anna and ask about these awesome products, because they are, in fact, awesome products. CanadaNanoSilver.com online. Hello, Michael. Hello, Darcy from Whitehorse, watching on X tonight. Linda's watching in Trenton. Hello, Tony. You're on X, watching in Calgary. Carla's in Calgary, watching on Facebook. Ken, hello, from Dromana, Australia. Ken emailed me the other day and asked me when the Shadow store is opening, and it's going to be very soon. I've had a little bit of an issue with that, but it will be very soon. Hello, Mireille and Darcy. Darcy is watching in Whitehorse as well. Wow, we've got some people from Whitehorse tonight. Roy is watching in Shishelt. Hello, Wayne on X. Kathy is watching tonight from Foxwarren, the Foxwarren area of Manitoba. Iris, hello, in Clear Lake. Shelley is watching tonight. Vicky in Nova Scotia. Hello, Debbie and Brenda in Quebec. Vicky and Shannon. What are you saying? No like option? Of course, there's always a like option. Don't forget to like and share, man. Get this out to as many people as you possibly can. And maybe if you're not finding a like option, it's because you haven't followed the show yet, or you haven't liked the show. So, and that would be on Facebook, I'm assuming. There's so many different platforms we run on here. So what you do is you go ahead and you like the page, and then I think all of the little functions will be available to you. Wanna Keeper is watching on Rumble. Hello, Susie Q and Vilma and Satin Cover. Satin Coveralls is watching. Maria Christiana. Who else? Porter Boy. Lawrence Green is watching in Winnipeg. All right. Again, like and share. Get this out to as many people as you possibly can. We had some good news from Universal Ostrich Farm this past weekend, and I have something more to share about Universal in just a moment, but it's not concrete yet. I'll get more details in the next couple of days so I can share them with you. Over the weekend on Saturday from left-wing corporate CTV, the Universal Ostrich Farm did win an interim stay of order to cull the birds over this avian flu that CFIA claim is still there even after all this time. I'm sure you guys follow Katie Pasitny on Facebook, and she does daily videos about how many days these big, beautiful birds have been healthy. And she's right. A BC ostrich farm fighting to stop a cull of its 400-strong flock over an avian flu outbreak. And again, we're not even sure that it's avian flu that happened back in late December and January of this year, because all the CFIA did was run 2 PCR tests. And this is something I probably should have gotten into more with Katie the other night when she was on. This could have been any number of things. And by the way, they're also claiming now that there is wild birds like geese and ducks in the area who have died from bird flu. That's what the CFIA is claiming right now. But again, if they keep coming at us with these PCR tests, which are faulty at best, yeah, you guys know all about the PCR test. You can find anything that you want to find with a PCR test. Anyway, they have been granted an interim stay by the Federal Court of Appeal in Ottawa, delaying the execution of the birds. They've been trying to stop CFIA from destroying these birds since the cull was ordered amid an avian, again, faulty reporting, amid an avian flu outbreak in December that would go on to kill 69 ostriches. They state that as fact here. So again, you guys watch out for the media. The farm is lost in federal court and the Federal Court of Appeal, but on Thursday, their lawyer sought another stay on the cull, filing a series of documents as the farm seeks a hearing in Canada's highest court. That would be the Supreme Court, obviously. So in this decision, which came out on Saturday, the Federal Court of Appeal granted an interim stay until the stay motion is decided on the basis of a full record. Now, what does that mean? Are they finally going to allow all of the information that's been gathered in the last 8.5 months to be allowed into court? Finally? I guess we should get Katie back on so she can clarify some of this. The decision says a notice to cull the birds is hereby stayed pending the disposition of the stay motion, with the deadline for the CFIA to respond to that stay motion being tomorrow. So Umar Sheikh, he's the lawyer. He says, well, this gives us a little bit of time, not a lot. The farm, which argues the birds are now healthy, they are. I've seen it with my own eyes, all 400 of them, has maintained they pose no threat and are scientifically valuable. Sheikh, the lawyer, said that the farm applied for the interim measure at the same time it applied for the stay, explaining that it wanted to prevent the CFIA from culling the ostriches before the court could rule on the stay. The lawyer had said in a letter filed in the Federal Court of Appeal that the agency was imminently mobilizing to enforce the cull order, and we heard that story last week. We know what Katie says about this. The CFIA says on its website that allowing a flock previously exposed to avian flu to remain alive, and again, 2 PCR tests, my people. That's all they have to go on. There has been no further testing. There's been no blood and tissue testing. Not at all. And if the family decides to do it, they can be penalized $20,000 for each test and thrown in jail. Why is the CFIA so scared to allow independent testing? I think we know, but that would be pure speculation, wouldn't it? So they're saying that allowing these birds to remain alive means the potential source of the virus persists and increases the risk of reassortment or mutation of the virus. And again, there's been no sign of that at all, except for what CFIA says regarding some wild animals, some wild birds late last week. And we don't know how real that is either. It's sad when you have to sit back and not trust your institutions and the information that they dole out, isn't it? I mean, back in the old days, and maybe we couldn't even back in the old days either, but it just felt, all right, we've got some institutional strength in this country. These people know what they're doing. How many times did you hear from your mom or dad or somebody you look up to, an older brother, maybe an uncle, whatever, an aunt? Why would they put that there, you'd say? And your aunt or uncle or your brother, they'd say, well, these people obviously know what they're doing, so that's there for a reason. And then you just dismiss it out of hand, like, oh, well, these people know what they're doing, so I guess it's okay. What if they didn't? What if they didn't know what they were doing? I don't think these people know what they're doing. Or maybe they do, and it's got some malicious purpose indeed. The farm situation has drawn the attention of Donald Trump, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's repeatedly called for the animals to be spared and studied. Supporters seeking to avert a cull have also been camping out at the farm staging musical concerts. The interim stay motion notes that the CFIA is still allowed to take preparatory steps to kill the birds. It says that after the CFIA files its response to the application for a stay of the cull order, the farm will have until Wednesday to respond. So this is a game of chess at this point. And the CFIA, like anytime something like this happens, the CFIA is going to become more and more angry and probably more and more ready to go and kill those ostriches. I don't know. I mean, inside there, they must be taking this personally, right? They're making us look ridiculous. You get out there and you kill those ostriches. I wonder, like, never mind the kill squads that the CFIA is contracted to do this. We know that's how they're going to do this. What about the RCMP officers? We understand that they were massing 100 RCMP officers out of Vancouver and Surrey, or Abbotsford and Surrey, last week. Do those people understand that this is all one big sham? And even if they do, are they willing then to just go with the flow because it's their job? We saw that happen in Ottawa in February of 2022. And I wonder if any of those people, any of those RCMP officers on those lines, regret their actions today, and would they do the same thing? I heard briefly a couple of hours ago, got a call from one of the folks at the Ostrich farm that says they're going to be doing an auction starting next week. I don't know exactly what they're going to be auctioning or where they're going to be auctioning, meaning what website they're going to be using, but the Ostrich farm obviously needs some help financially. If they manage to go to the Supreme Court, that's going to be another few months and tens of thousands of more dollars. And I think they're already in this for $500,000 at this stage of the game. They're willing to fight, but how long can they is the question. Meantime, we have had people messaging their MPs, and our friend Brian, who is a regular viewer of the show, sent me this today. He messaged his MP in Transcona, Manitoba. This is a riding that's held by the Conservatives right now, and the MP is Colin Reynolds. So Brian, who is the guy who sent the initial email, got this back. Hello, Brian. Thank you for bringing this issue to my attention. We, as Canada's Conservatives, stand with farm families and humane science-based disease control. In the case of Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, BC, Conservative representatives have urged federal authorities to pause the cull, allow independent testing of the surviving birds, and pursue non-destructive options such as controlled research partnerships or relocation, rather than defaulting to stamping out while ensuring any measures protect both animal and public health. We're also pressing for full transparency and accountability from the CFIA, clear publication of the evidence behind its decisions and proportionate least harm tools, along with fair treatment and compensation for affected producers. Conservatives will keep advocating for a balanced approach that protects both the public and animal health, respects farmers, and uses the minimum necessary measures, including independent testing. That's the big one, before any mass destruction of any animal's proceeds. Thank you again for reaching out. If there's any future issues that you'd like to bring to our attention regarding this matter, please do not hesitate. So that's great news. It looks like, at least through email, the Conservative Party of Canada is on board with this. A couple of truckers were in court today in Ottawa. Chris Dacey of Dacey Media posted this. Robert Dinel's Freedom Convoy charges have been stayed. He is a free man, and here's some video for it.
You did a great job. Great job.
So what was the decision then that
stayed?
It was stayed under Section 11B of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms for unreasonable delay.
Okay.
And the trial judge went into great detail on the early days of the trial. There were originally 5 days set aside for the trial, and then we had to set 3 more days. And there were further days set later in 2024 and earlier this year. But his reasons for decision were focused primarily on the first 8 days of trial, and said it was nothing that the defense counsel did during that time could impute the delay to a defense, that it was all crown delay or institutional delay.
Yeah, and these things, I mean, drag on. This is like 3 years out from the actual occurrence, and these things drag on a long time. So,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
And, because there were a lot of issues before the trial dates were set. There were judicial pre-trials. Crown counsel had been changed 3 times.
Yeah.
Defense counsel was not getting the disclosure it requested. So I'm pleased with the decision. I'm going to get a copy of it and review it. I think it's a good example of, hopefully, it will stand as a good example of what not to do to cause unreasonable delay.
Yeah, so it's a great result, and on your birthday, but the process was certainly part of the punishment in this
The
case.
process was difficult. It was difficult for my client. It was difficult for me. But at the end of the day, we're pleased with the result.
Can you believe that 3 years after it's over, even longer, 3.5 years, this nonsense is still going on? The government is still playing these ridiculous games at our expense, using our tax dollars to do this. It's absurd. Right Blend reports today that nearly 3 years after his arrest, Freedom Convoy trucker Csaba Vizi was in Ottawa court today, claiming that his rights were violated in pre-trial charter challenges. And here is more from our friend Right Blend.
Trucker Csaba Vizi was in court today for day one of his pretrial motion, where his defense team, Diane Magus, is arguing that his charter rights were violated in the process of his arrest during the Freedom Convoy in 2022. Csaba Vizi gained international notoriety when a video of his arrest, where he was held down by a group of police officers while another kicked him as hard as he could repeatedly, was seen around the world. Now, Csaba is arguing that his Charter Section 8 and Charter Section 9 rights, the rights to not have an unreasonable search and seizure and not be unduly, unfairly, unjustly arrested, were violated, specifically in the order of which his documents and identification were received by police, and also other information that may have been over the line, whether or not he was properly given his warning and his right to counsel, and at which point that happened, whether it happened while he was searched, after he was searched, before he was searched. So in the morning, we heard from OPS Detective Constable Shane Farley, I believe his name was, who spoke to some video evidence that was introduced and some pictures, or mainly a Facebook profile belonging to Csaba. And in the videos, where the first one was Mr. Csaba having an exchange with the police, where the police were basically informing him that there is an injunction against honking, asking him if he understands. He said no, and basically the female officer in the video told him that if he continued to honk, they have identified him now by his license plate, and that if that continues, he'll be civilly arrested or something along that line. And then at various points, different people in the video were interjecting. Someone in the background yelled that famous phrase, "hold the line," and someone else in the truck perhaps said it back. But defense counsel Diane Magus argued, I think quite astutely, that the videos posted on Facebook don't definitively say when the videos themselves were filmed. And in fact, Officer Farley had to testify that the metadata was removed from the videos, so there's no way he can actually guarantee on which date those videos were posted. However, he argued or testified that there were lives on the channel showing Mr. Vizi, so it's reasonable to assume that at some point he had carrying control of the channel, but theoretically it's possible he gave the password to others. Again, I think the defense here is trying to raise doubt about who was actually posting these videos, whether it was Mr. Vizi himself or someone else. As well, Ms. Magus seems to have an issue with how the police have his name at all, saying that the fact that they do have that information is a violation of his rights because it came from an unjust, I think it was called a seizure leading to arrest, a very specific phrase that was used several times, and different case law that the defense used to argue in favor of that position. There were at least 2 other videos that I can recall off the top of my head, again introduced by Constable Farley. There was a video of a vest in Mr. Csaba's vehicle, and at which point he pointed to it and he said, "I've been asked by police," I believe he said, "why I have this vest, and it's because I'm an organ donor and I want to protect my organs." And then there was another video, I believe it was a Fox News video, where an anchor had been at the door of a truck where Mr. Vizi was apparently inside and asked him, is he going to leave? When is he going to leave? And Mr. Vizi replied, I'm going to be leaving just around the corner in August, at which point I will go down and get my favorite effing pizza and I'll come right back. And then there was a short discussion between the anchor and Mr. Vizi about how Mr. Vizi's intention is to make it clear that he's not going to leave. And he did that in a very humorous way. There was a legal argument where the defense wanted to call another police witness, Detective Ann Deal, I think I'm saying that right, who was the person who took custody of Mr. Vizi on the day of his arrest from the HOT team, where he was passed from the arresting officer, I believe, to him to be processed. And there was a lot of arguments about what happened in that process and whether it was according to the rules.
You know, honest to God, and Right Blend and Dacey, these guys are doing a fantastic job of bringing us this information, covering this stuff, these court cases, these frivolous, ridiculous court cases that the Ontario government and the federal government are wasting our money on. It's enough already. It's enough. So as long as you're writing your MP, your MPP, or your MLA, you might want to write them. Oh, and by the way, the ridiculousness of these court cases, 3.5 years after the Freedom Convoy is over, for mischief charges. You are wasting our money on this stuff, and I want you to stop immediately. Now, there's a lot of people who say, yeah, sure, writing a letter, that's going to be effective. That'll really get them. It's almost as good as signing a petition, right? Well, I'll tell you what. And you can email or you can write a letter to your MP or MPP or MLA or whatever. Bottom line here is that they are obligated to record how many letters they get. They're obligated to look at them as well. According to the rules that they're sworn in by, they have to. And the one thing that they don't like to do more than anything, regardless of party stripe, is be responsible to you, the people, to us. They hate that. And I'll tell you right now that these people, they skate free almost every single day. They might get 4 or 5 letters a week, maybe, usually from the same people. All the time. Oh, look, it's Angry Bob again. I'll bet he's going to tell me about how the grass in his neighbor's lawn is too long. But how about hundreds or thousands of letters being sent to these people? They would have to register them all. They would have to look at them all. And they would be frightened because that would show an awakening within their community. And that means that all of a sudden they have to start being answerable to this. So the more engaged we are with our elected representatives, the better off we're going to be. And this one here, this is a big one. This happens on Friday. First of all, October 7th, that's when Tamara Leach and Chris Barber finally are going to get their sentences for their guilty verdicts of mischief. On September 12th, that's this coming Friday, there's going to be a forfeiture hearing regarding Big Red. I'm not sure if they're going to get a decision on Friday. I would highly doubt it. But on Friday, this coming Friday, they are doing the hearing, the forfeiture hearing about Big Red. And you know why they're doing it. They're doing it because they want to completely and totally break the spirit of any freedom-minded people in this country. Big Red was still is a huge monument to the Freedom Convoy of 2022. And they figure if they can take Chris's, and let's be honest, they would take his living away from him. But if they can take his truck and they can wreck it, they can tear it into strips, turn it into Brillo pads, that is going to break the spine of all of us. That's the government flexing. That's what this is. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything else. It's almost like tearing down a statue at this stage of the game. There's a guy who believes in tearing down statues. So maybe he doesn't necessarily believe in it, but he has no problem with it. Mark Carney. Mark Carney is a climate zealot, among other things. And this story came out today, and I thought it was hilarious because I've been reading his book, Values. And he is all about net zero. He is all about reducing emissions to zero. He is all about making you eat bugs. He is all about reducing your meat intake. He is all about making all the things that you heard. He is all about it. And now suddenly Mark Carney and his government are non-committal about Canada meeting the 2030 climate goals. They're not saying whether Canada is still committed to meeting its climate goals under the Paris Agreement by 2030 as the government faces criticism over its emission reduction plans. And here is Mark Carney talking about it today.
Is the federal government planning to change its climate change policies and targets for 2030 and 2035?
Well, the focus, as we stressed on Friday, and we will be going in more detail in the coming weeks. Our focus in this very rapidly changing global economy is on what we call climate competitiveness. So we see becoming low carbon in any industry as being a key driver of competitiveness. So let's take conventional oil and gas, offshore, and for example, offshore oil and gas, Bay du Nord as an example. That's one of the lowest carbon new oil fields, depending on how you develop it, but that's the intention, one of the lowest carbon conventional oil and gas opportunities, conventional energy, but oil and gas opportunities that this country has. So we look at that as a way of being competitive in conventional energy. At the same time, we look at the immense opportunity in hydro, again with Churchill. That doesn't just unlock $225 billion, and you know your numbers, Premier, $225 billion for Newfoundland and Labrador. It creates enormous clean power that's going to be one of the key factors for manufacturing going forward, for artificial intelligence, data centers going forward. It creates a host of new economic opportunities in Newfoundland and Labrador and Quebec across Canada. So that focus on what can we do in order to drive emissions down in a way that makes the country more competitive is crucial. Last point on it, and I can't stress this enough, our home building strategy, Build Canada Homes, and you'll be hearing more of that in the next few days, that's not just about doubling the number of homes we're building in this country by the end of the decade, or within the next decade. It's about creating a new industry that is lower carbon, that's more efficient, that homes themselves are more energy efficient by more than 20–25%. And all of that will get our emissions down and make us more competitive. So that's the focus of the government. The government is focused on results, making companies, businesses, industries more climate competitive. Thank
you. All the climate zealots are so narrowly focused on removing the carbon from the air, right? But now they're talking about methane being a thing and coffee. I think I said that earlier in the show. Oh, yeah. The emissions from coffee, those people that, pick coffee in places like Jamaica and wherever else, and then actually grinding it. Oh, it's terrible for the environment. Terrible. Carbon here, methane there. It's awful. So he mentioned in that little soliloquy there, that little answer to the left-wing corporate media reporter, that hydroelectric power would be a good thing. It's clean. Now, I know that BC has got hydropower. I know Manitoba has got it, and Ontario and Quebec, definitely. What about hydropower? You got to build a massive dam that cuts off rivers. That's the first thing. Hydro dams cause environmental damage by submerging large areas of land, releasing greenhouse gases from decaying vegetation, creating methyl mercury in fish populations, altering river ecosystems, disrupting fish migration and spawning, and increasing erosion. The extensive flooding of boreal forests and waterways in regions like Manitoba's northern communities destroys habitats and negatively impacts sensitive ecosystems. There is no form of energy available on this planet that doesn't cause some measure of damage. That's just the way it is. Do you remember when plastic bags became a thing? I'm not sure if this was 70s or 80s or how old I was when they switched from paper bags to plastic bags at grocery stores. It was all about saving the forests. We're going to switch to plastic bags. Did they not know to what extent plastic bags would cause a problem? Because here we are so many years later, and now we can't use plastic bags anymore. Now we have to, well, some stores are going back to paper. It's cyclical. The lies are cyclical. And they're sitting back behind closed doors going, these idiots, they fell for it again. And this is all parties. This is not just the Mark Carneys of the world or the Klaus Schwabs. This is everybody. This is all of it, man. I went into a deep dive over the weekend, and I found out what political parties are beholden to who, and there's so much backdoor shenanigans going on that we'll be forever beholden to some special interest group and millionaires or billionaires all in Eastern Canada. So the best thing that could happen to our country in the next year is if Alberta decides once and for all to separate. That's it. That will be the thing that changes everything as far as I'm concerned going forward. Absolutely. Pierre Poilievre had a few things to say about Mark Carney today. Keep in mind, House of Commons resumes next Monday.
Promised elbows up before the election. He's been elbows down since. He promised a deal by July 21st. He secured no deal. He said he could, quote unquote, handle Donald Trump and negotiate a win. Yet since Mark Carney became Prime Minister, tariffs have doubled on Canadian industries. Regrettably, Mr. Carney's weakness has now encouraged the Chinese government to come after us with higher tariffs on our farmers and fish harvesters. So he has failed on the single biggest promise. Let's remember, Mark Carney said, forgive all of the Liberal disasters on housing, immigration, crime, taxes, debt, all for one promise, that he would put elbows up and win a deal with the U.S. That was his single promise. He has broken that promise. His weakness abroad is sadly costing Canadians at home. I would have negotiated from a position of strength. I would have passed immediately a Sovereignty Act, which would rapidly build up our pipelines, ports, LNG plants, nuclear plants to get markets outside of the North America. I would have unleashed home building to bring a sector that is trade-proof, because most of the materials, all of the labor and land, are right here in Canada. And I would have gone to our American friends and said, here's the deal that we offer. We will massively build up our military, secure our borders, stop the fentanyl and the drugs. In exchange, and we can do more and better on all those things if we have free and open trade that enriches both of our countries. But I would never have done what Carney did, which is make a bunch of chest-pounding threats and then back down from every single one of them. He has made concession after concession and gotten nothing in return. I should conclude by saying to Mr. Carney, work with us. We're happy to work with Mr. Carney and the Liberals to get a fair deal with the United States. Let's put party aside and let's stand up for Canada first.
Okay, sure. You know, I mean, Poilievre's ideas sound better, but ultimately they're all coming from the same billionaires in Ontario and Quebec, mostly Quebec, actually. The Laurentian elite. That's who they are. You've heard me talk about them before. I'm sure you've researched them yourself by now. The Laurentian elite. Multi-billionaires in Canada who actually do run the show. And then there's all kinds of foreign lobbyists as well, notably from India, from China, who are running it as well. Why do you think, I mean, I'm going to get to this a little bit more in depth towards the end of the show. Why do you think we have so many immigrants, let's call them, or migrants or whatever, from India and Pakistan, but specifically India? Why are there so many Indians in Canada? And suddenly, in the last 5 years, it's been an explosion Why is that? They're running scams in India. They're running diploma mills in Canada. But that's only a part of it. There are lobby groups. This goes way deeper than anybody thinks, and I'm still doing an investigation on it right now, so I'll definitely come up with some stuff for you guys, maybe even by tomorrow night. But yeah, it goes very, very, very deep, and it's very disturbing and very, very disappointing. And both of Canada's main political parties are involved in it. Like it or not, that's just the way it is. Moving forward with this story here from Friday, Mark Carney saying he's going to give the canola industry sector in Canada $370 million. The industry group president says, well, he's missing the mark. $370 million. President of the Canola Council of Canada says new funding announced this week or last week, it was late last week, by Mark Carney misses the mark on what the industry needs right now in the face of a steep Chinese tariff. We don't believe there's been proper recognition of extensive impacts on the rest of the canola value chain. Chris Davison said on Rosemary Barton this past weekend, we have exporters and processors who have assets, facilities, and infrastructure that's under duress right now. He added, and there was nothing specifically that was speaking to that. Carney pledged Friday to provide or introduce new biofuel production incentives and provide more than $370 million to assist domestic canola producers. He has got to stop spending our money like this. There's no budget. It's out of control. Carney also said he would amend Canada's clean fuel regulations to spur development of a Canadian biofuel industry, increase the loan limits for canola producers to $500,000, and invest in trade diversification measures to support agriculture sector. So now he says he's going to amend Canada's clean fuel regulations. Exactly how is he going to do that? What is he going to do? I doubt he'll do anything. Poilievre had a few words to say about this as well.
Do you, Scott Moe had said yesterday that if it was up to him, Saskatchewan would remove the tariffs on EVs from Chinese EVs in hope that China might remove tariffs on the canola sector. If it was up to you, would you do the same thing?
No, I don't believe that is the right way to go. I think that, first of all, China wants these electric vehicles to be roving surveillance operations on our streets, and in 10 years, God forbid, there's a conflict, and then there's millions of those vehicles surveilling our population in our streets. That would be a strategic problem for our country. So I respect Scott Moe. He's a great premier. I just respectfully disagree with this point. What I would do instead is I would cancel the $1 billion loan the Liberals are giving under Mark Carney to buy Chinese-made ships. I would say to the dictators in Beijing, you are not going to be selling $1 billion of ships to our country when you are unlawfully and unfairly targeting our canola producers with tariffs.
Well, that makes absolute sense. It is common sense. So Poilievre does appear to be more of a common sense prime minister than anybody in the Liberal Party could ever be. And again, and I've said this in the past, and I'll say it again now, I don't believe that Poilievre wants to be a part of the agenda. I believe he's being forced into it. And I think the real leader of the Conservative Party, Stephen Harper, is forcing them all to be a part of it. And I've said this in the past, and now I have to say, for the algorithms on YouTube and the Meta platforms that we're broadcasting on tonight, the show is for your entertainment only, for entertainment purposes only. I believe Stephen Harper is dirty, and I believe he's really running the show. And I believe he told Pierre Poilievre back, probably in February, when Mark Carney was being installed as the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, that he would have to lose the election. You're going down this time, Pierre, but maybe next time. Maybe next time. Once Carney does what he's supposed to do, then we'll let you win, but not right now. Now, what's Poilievre supposed to say about that? I believe that's what happened. I believe there's deals being made in back rooms all over the Western world And that happened to be one of them. And there's so many people, and now that's pure speculation on my part, obviously, but there's so many people who will sit and watch a movie or read a book or follow a Netflix series, something about crime and espionage, and go, oh my God. But then when it comes to real life, they'll never believe it, not for a million years. Why? It's worse in real life. All right, the city of Hamilton. This is an interesting story that was sent me over the weekend from CHCH. This came out on Friday. The city of Hamilton has ordered a resident to take down 10 security cameras from his home. 10 security cameras that he has up or had up. Let me make this bigger so we can all see this here. Click, click, click. There we go. A Hamilton man has been ordered by the city to take down his security cameras that he has on the outside of his house, despite his claim that his footage has been used in crime investigations. Dan Miles says he has 10 security cameras outside of his home in downtown Hamilton, says he needs them because we had a lot of break-and-enters into our home and homes around us. Makes sense. Miles has posted videos of break-ins online. He also says police have asked him for his videos over the years to help with investigations. CHCH, left-wing corporate media news, reached out to Hamilton police, and they say they can't confirm the use of Miles' videos, but said they often work with homeowners, businesses, and drivers to get footage. CHCH News has used videos from Miles in the past, including one that showed the moments before a fatal crash 2 years ago at the corner of Barton and McNabb Streets. These cameras are imperative to our neighborhood watch and the safety of our community, says Miles. But last week, Miles received an order to comply with the city of Hamilton's fortification bylaw, which asked him to remove his cameras. The bylaw says homeowners are not permitted to view or listen beyond the perimeters of their own property. Okay, sure. But cameras for your own personal home, essential, considering we're not supposed to fight back. At the very least, we could have video footage of perpetrators breaking into our home so police can go catch them later, I suppose, after they've taken everything from us and maybe, killed some of our family members. I want you to watch this video. I only saw this for the first time today, and I went looking around on all of the social media platforms I could find, and this video was released today from home surveillance camera. It shows 3 men breaking into a home in Ontario. Watch.
It was 2:20 in the morning, Sunday, August 31st. 3 masked men walk up to this Kleinberg home, smashing the front door with the handle of a gun. The video released by York Regional Police this morning.
At the time of the incident, 2 adults and 2 children, aged 6 and 9, were within the residence. At least one of those suspects was armed with a firearm.
Yelling can be heard from inside, along with what appears to be a security alarm. The 3 masked men leave, this all happening just 90 minutes after another home invasion killed 46-year-old Aleem Farouki. The 2 homes are located just 1 kilometer apart.
While the 2 incidents have not been formally linked, investigators are reviewing the evidence for possible connections.
Farouki was shot and killed inside his Kleinberg home with his 4 children present just before 1 a.m. Vaughan Mayor Stephen Del Duca said keeping communities safe means keeping repeat offenders in jail instead of getting bail.
These 3 specific animals, let's be clear about this, scumbags who have killed this incredibly important person and shattered this family. We don't know who these 3 are, but based on everything I've seen, there is a decent chance, perhaps more than a decent chance, that these are people who have a track record in criminal activity.
Something that York Regional Police Chief Jim McSween said as well.
I'm disappointed to report that many of the violent incidents in our region, we are arresting repeat offenders over and over again.
The police chief saying that while overall crime is down, brazen acts like this one are on the rise.
So what would you say if I said that chances are very high that the people who are perpetrating all of these crimes right now because it's skyrocketing, are migrants. And I would suggest, because we've had so many migrants from India, that it's quite possible these people are, in fact, from India. The Canadian government is stalling on providing any new immigration information. That news came out in the last couple of days. And we know that numbers from India have exploded. We know there are criminals, like criminals, in our country that were never properly vetted from India and China, but a lot of them from India. When you see videos, especially coming from Ontario, where a group of men walk into a liquor store and just start taking bottles, throwing them into a large sack, and then leaving. Where are those people from? When you look at them, when you see India, it seems a lot of this crime that we're now facing are people from India. And yet, for some reason, here in the West, in Canada, we have to accept diversity, but only in the West. It's not anywhere else. China, from what I understand, is probably one of the most racist countries in the world against their own people. Incredibly racist. Racism exists everywhere. India, too. And if it's not cultural, it's religious, whatever it is. But why in the West are we the only ones that have to face this situation? Oh, you've got to be inclusive. You've got to allow them all in. You've got to let them speak their own languages. And if you don't, you're a bigot. Our favorite counselor from Pickering, Ontario, Lisa Robinson, I'll have to get her back on the show at some point soon. She's been putting out some pretty good videos on YouTube lately. I would suggest going to follow her. Counselor Lisa Robinson on YouTube. And here's one I found particularly interesting.
Hi, it's Counselor Lisa Robinson here, and I want to ask a serious question. And I want to know if anyone can honestly answer this question for me. Why is it that only Western countries like Europe, North America, Australia are being aggressively pushed to diversify? Why is mass immigration and multiculturalism being treated as an obligation only in countries where they are historically white majority? This is a serious question. I'm not being rhetorical. I genuinely want to know because no one has ever been able to give a real answer. Only slogans and labels. The truth is, white people make up around 16% of the global population. So why is it that we are the ones constantly told that we must change, we must adapt, and we must integrate everyone and everything at all costs? Do you ever hear anyone demanding that Japan open its borders to mass immigration? Is China being pressured to import millions of people to become more inclusive? What about Saudi Arabia, Iran, or Qatar? Are they forced to diversify campaigns? Are they being told that they must transform their cultural identity into the name of progress? Of course they're not, because they're allowed to protect their traditions, their language, their people, and no one questions it. But the second someone in a Western country says, I'd like to preserve my culture too, they're called a racist. It's not about superiority. It's about consistency. It's about asking why only one group of nation is told that it has no right to remain as it is, no right to say we're full or we'd like to control the pace of change. Here in Canada, we're told we need to import hundreds of thousands of people every year, regardless of housing, jobs, or infrastructure. And if you question it, you're attacked. Meanwhile, the countries these migrants come from aren't expected to change anything about themselves. Not their culture, not their language, not their values. So here's the real question. If multiculturalism is so great, why is it only being pushed in one direction? Why does every Western country have to become something else while the rest of the world is left alone? And if you bring this up, you're instantly vilified, labeled a bigot, told to sit down and be quiet. But the facts are the facts, and the double standard is very real. Every group on this planet is allowed to be proud, to preserve itself, to build community around shared values, except one. Why? I'm open to hearing a real answer, but until then, I'll keep asking the question, because if we don't talk about the 16% now, we won't be allowed to talk about it at all.
I love that woman. I do. I think she's absolutely amazing. You guys may have heard about something in the past that's called the Kalergi Plan. The Kalergi Plan. Have you ever heard about it? Kalergi. Some people say Kalergi. Kalergi Plan. Apparently, it's to eliminate those of European descent from the planet. Now, it's been called a conspiracy theory, right? I mean, when you say the Great Replacement Theory, that gets called a conspiracy theory. And immediately, Lisa's right. Suddenly, you're a bigot. You're a racist. You have no place in modern North American society. We're going to get into that tonight on the extension with the all access folks at shadowdavis.com. And I urge you, if you're not an all access member, go ahead and become one. Go visit the website and just sign up. It's that simple. You can sign up monthly or yearly. Shadowdavis.com, SHADOEDAVIS.com. If you would like to support the show by making a donation, you can go ahead and do that. E-transfer is accepted at shadowdavis@gmail.com using the password shadow. Again, SHADOE. Look at this from Not the Bee. Now, people say, well, that's the Babylon Bee, Shadow. That's not real. They do have a part of their website dedicated to news, and Not the Bee is that part. Watch Southeast Asian migrants poach Canadian salmon while they spawn. The problem is worse than you know. Video from Bowmanville, Ontario shows Southeast Asian men, do with that what you will, flipping salmon out of a small stream during the annual salmon run back to their spawning locations. And here's the In the past couple of days, you may have heard about something called, now, you know, we've got the UN Migration Pact and all of that. We've got the Temporary Foreign Workers Plan in Canada. This program has now been uncovered. A lot of people didn't know it existed. And it was brought in by the Harper government in 2014. The International Mobility Program is a Canadian immigration initiative. So if you're wondering why there's so many East Asian employees in places like Tim Hortons and other hospitality. The International Mobility Program allows employers to hire foreign workers without obtaining a labor market impact assessment. Simply meaning that, hey, are there Canadian kids who can do this job? Well, you got to go through the assessment. You got to go and find it. You got to look through your resumes and your job applications and see if there are Canadians who can do this job before you hire a temporary foreign worker. But because of this program, the International Mobility Program, again, they can just kind of sidestep that. The program is designed to attract temporary foreign workers and is often used when hiring a foreign national. It offers economic, cultural, or competitive advantages to Canada, or provides reciprocal benefits for Canadians and permanent residents. Common pathways include work permits under international trade agreements, intra-company transfers, open work permits, and programs like Francophone mobility. Now, when Harper brought this program in, the intent was just to make it easier for companies who needed employees to be able to hire them. But it's since been expanded by the Liberals, first Trudeau and then Carney, and now it's being used to employ all of these temporary foreign workers and sidestep Canadians who may want that job. CBC's doing it. It's called the International Mobility Program. You might want to look that up. And that's it for the show tonight, you guys. Thank you very much for being here. I love you all, and I appreciate you all. Don't forget to become a member at shadowdavis.com. The Shadow Store is going to be open very, very, very soon in the next 4 days, I'm hoping. And I'll catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another episode. The extension is coming up in 2 minutes on shadowdavis.com and in the Shadow at Night community on Telegram. I will talk to you tomorrow night. Have a great night. And don't forget, Shadow at Night live stream, as always, is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
Silver is amazing. It has several natural health benefits, and it's been used for hundreds of years for health and healing. That's the main reason they made silverware from silver. But seriously, this nano silver from Silverceuticals is the best and safest silver you can find. There are hundreds of studies and reports on it. I've read some of the studies myself, and it's mind-blowing. One of the things that sets Silverceuticals apart is that it washes out of your body in 24 hours. No silver buildup and no turning blue. And it won't even harm the good bacteria your body needs. It's so effective they can use very small concentrations of silver, like 10 and 32 parts per million, and still outperform other silvers that have up to 3,000 parts per million. It's safer and more effective at the same time. It is an incredibly small particle that is small enough to work through your body, but big enough not to fall out of suspension. They infuse it into almost all of their products. It works in facial serums, toothpaste, gels, and even gummies that work to help your immune system.